Okay, students, welcome to the independent practice part of our lesson. Okay, so we're still doing linear and quadratics. A linear equation meeting up with a quadratic equation. We did one before that was pretty rough. I actually think this one is a little bit easier. Okay, well, the problem is with this one is they're not both y equals. I need to get them both y equals. Sure, I can put them together and then we can solve it. So I'm going to stop this first. I'm going to say, okay, well, let's make this y equals. Well, that's good. What about this one? This one's not really y equals. So what I'm going to say here, I was going to say, well, y minus 30 equals 12x. Okay. Make it y equals. I just got to get y by itself. Well, that's easy. I'll just add 30 to both sides. If I do that, I get y equals 12x plus 30. Here's my quadratic equation. My linear. mx plus b. Here's my quadratic, so I have them both now. 12x plus 30. These both now add up to y. This equals y and this equals y. All right, so I'm going to write it another way. So I'm going to say, well, if they both equal y, they're equal to each other. X squared plus 11x minus 12 equals 12x plus 30. Now I can only combine like terms, so we'll work around this. Let's make this a little easier. I'm going to get rid of this negative 30. That way I can get rid of that. X squared plus 11x. These all come down. This comes to negative 42 equals 12x, and that's 0. Looking better already. Now I just got to make it equal to 0. Well, if I subtract 12x from both sides and combine it with its like term on the other, this becomes 0. Easy enough. X squared, 11 minus 12 is just negative 1x minus 42. Now this doesn't actually look too terrible to figure out as far as factoring go. A times c, in this case, is 1 times negative 42. It's just negative 42. Now, the other side, the b they have to add up to, is just negative 1. So it has to be multiply to negative 42 and add up to negative 1. Well, if I look on a multiplication table, and you guys have multiplication tables, there's multiplication tables online, negative 42, one of the factors is 6 and 7, well, for 42. Now, to make this equal negative 1, if I made 6 the negative 1, it would just equal positive 1. But if I made 7 the negative 1, the negative, that would be negative 1. So my two factors, not too bad, pretty quickly, are 6 and negative 7. So I could plug those back in over here. X plus 6 and x minus 7 is equal to 0. Now, of course, one of these has to equal 0. Either x plus 6 has to equal 0, or, or x minus 7 has to equal to 0. So I can subtract 6 from both sides. So x can equal negative 6, or x equals positive 7. My two answers. Now, I got to put them back in and get my y's, but I got the x's already. So I'm like almost done. So I'm going to pick the easier one of these to work with. And I always think with these problems, the linear is always the easier one. Very rarely is it the quadratic. This one is usually not the easier one to substitute with. This one is usually the easier one to substitute with. So let's just do this. So I'm going to take the one we made up, 12x plus 30, because it's the same equation. So I can do 12 times negative 6, my first x, can take my first x, substitute it in, put it in the calculator, and I'll get an answer. And to get my other y, I'm substituting in a positive 7. Same idea. So at this point, I just grab my trusty calculator, and I'm just plugging in the numbers. It's not too bad. So now I come in here, I'm plugging in my numbers. A little hard to see, I apologize. So I'm just going to type them in exactly as I have them here. 12 times negative 6 plus 30. Negative 42. Then my other answer is 12 times 7 plus 30. 114. So now I have my two places where these two graphs meet. My first one is negative 6 is my x, and negative 42 is my y. And my other one where my x is 7, and my negative y, and my y is 114. Positive numbers. Interesting thought. This is where the two things cross. As we said, if this was a real life problem, I'd be very worried about the negatives working. It might only be one answer. But since this is numbers, they're not talking about, cars or making boxes or something like that. These are just numbers. There's no story behind them. Both answers can be true.